Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, it's time for our discussion right now. We're looking at the minimum wage. Some states have started paying, some have not started paying. Federal government has started paying. Labor, TUC is actually threatening a strike by the end of this month if nothing is being done in those states. My guests are joining me right now. Let me start from Lagos to introduce the former president of the Trade Union Congress, Peter Esele. Can I see you? Comrade Esele, will it still be okay to call you comrade, even though you are not the president again? But they say a comrade is always a comrade. Can I see him? Okay, I saw you a bit. So that's him, Peter Esele. Let me also introduce, to my far right is Rabiu Tukur, an economist. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Then Obinna Uruakpa is joining me. He's a policy analyst. So welcome to the show, the trio.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yes, you know. Okay, let's get started. While we try to get Comrade Esele in Lagos, I hope I can speak with him in just a few seconds. Let me find out what your view is. Earlier on during my intro, some countries are already talking about living wage. We are not even talking about that yet. We're still looking at the at the minimum side of it. Yeah. President Buhari signed a law in April, that's last year. We know what went down. Of course, I've looked at the history and the intro for our viewers. What are your sentiments concerning the minimum wage right now?
Well, we thank God we've come through another round of a cycle of, the politics and the economics of coming up with a new minimum wage. You would look at how long it took for us to come this far, and you can see the enormous amount of energy that has gone through getting this process, which has taken a very, very long time. Now, judging the energy and then the tricks, the politics and the economics, we're able to come with 30,000 naira. Your statistics have actually broken down the whole issue to 169 naira per hour. And when you now just oppose the energy and the achievement, well, it will be left for Nigerians to
judge.
To judge, yes.
Okay, yeah. Let me come to Mr. Uruakpa. What are your views before I come to Peter Esele in Lagos?
Yeah, I'll take a clean break. Hassan has done a great job of laying the foundation, and you did an excellent job of tracing the history. If you go back to 1894, New Zealand started this whole issue of minimum wage, down to Nigeria 1981, and the rest of the things have happened, 125 naira to 250 naira to 5,500 to where we got to 18,000, which many states have struggled to pay, and then the backlog of salaries we're still dealing with, and then we now arrived at 2016 at the May Day celebrations, where the labor leaders came up with the idea of a review of the minimum wage. I also understand that there are three ways you can do this: either the initiative of government, or you have collective bargaining initiated by the workers themselves, or you have indexation. Now, I have a personal opinion, and I believe many other analysts do have the same opinion. What is the value of the 30,000 we have arrived at, coming down from over 60,000 to 56,000 down to 30,000? Compared to 2011, the labor leaders are arguing that the value of 30,000 does not match the value of 18,000 in 2011. And we're still dealing with the issue of many states that have not paid. You have backlogs. I don't want to mention specific states, but you have the Southwest, you have the Southeast, you have a few other states. Now, what we are beginning to realize is that some states, because it's minimum wage, basic wage, some states like Lagos, and in fact, their Primus Inter pares himself, Adams Oshomole, had gone ahead in Edo State when he was governor to introduce 25,000, even before negotiations started. Lagos said they were ready to go beyond that, meaning that you have a few states, like they said, the 10 fingers are not equal, who have the capacity to go beyond the 30,000. But the argument that's out there is this, that a lot of people are saying, must we have one common minimum wage for all states?
Okay, I think we'll come to that in a bit. Comrade Peter Esele is with me, or is with us. He's joining us from Lagos. Peter Esele, good to see you. Happy New Year. Can you hear me?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Yes. Good. Yes.
Happy New Year.
Yes, good to see you. As a former TUC president, your colleagues, or perhaps you are now former, your colleagues have, warned, threatened that they are going to down tools by January 31 at the end of this month if some states do not pay, in those states that do not pay minimum wage. Tell me what your sentiments are. At least now you are not wearing the hat of a labor leader or a TUC president anymore. So perhaps you can give me from the two sides of the table. What are your sentiments?
I think there should have been no reason for that if we do what is right. What we are discussing now is that we are discussing about a law. Are we supposed to discuss laws, or laws are supposed to be enforced? So the trade union leaders are left with no option other than to go on strike, and they are not supposed. This is not something that is supposed to happen, because once the law, when it has been signed into from act to a law by the president, what is left is for the state governments and federal government to implement. So what we are talking about now should not have even occurred in a sane climate, because negotiation went on. Federal government, state government were part of that negotiation. Never mind what they are going to tell you, there are documents to prove that state government were part of it. And now, Nancy, in the last negotiation, I was part of that. And that negotiation was 18,000 naira minimum wage, and it was pegged at $120. What you have now, the 30,000 naira, is about $90. So what you have is, when you talk about the quantum of the naira, you will say 30,000 naira, it's big. But when you look at what 30,000 naira can purchase, the purchasing power of 18,000 naira is actually higher than 30,000 naira. So what we're even talking about is the minimum wage. It's not even living wage. But you and I know that in this climate, I don't even know how you are going to survive a family of 4 who survive with 30,000 naira in a month. And if we want to fight corruption, it also has to start from what are you paying your workers. Yeah. So if you are not paying them right, they will look for every means available to survive.
Yeah. You've just hit a very fundamental nail on the head, or the whole body. You know, because I've always talked about it. Whenever I even talk about corruption, I've always said that it should start from what you also pay your workers, the welfare of your workers. Because if you don't pay someone right, and a person has an opportunity seeing a 1 million, that I can just be corrupt and take a 1 million. Come on. Except Holy Ghost is, except I'm Holy Ghost or something else, I would not be tempted to do that. How do you think that perhaps some governors or some states that may not have the ability to pay? Because when I was taking a look at a breakdown of FAC allocations to states for 2019, it was at about 2.53 trillion naira. The whole 36 states and FCT took about 2.53 trillion naira home. In 2019, Delta State was the largest recipient. But even at that, in 2019, the percentage of the FAC allocation that went to them was lower than 2018. So that means they really do not have enough money. How do we handle the inability of states to pay?
That argument is treating the symptom and not the cause. When you run a government as if it's an ad hoc, that is when you have issues such as this. If you run a government that is process-driven, you will not be having issues of talking about funds allocation. So when they come up with this argument that they don't have money, Nancy, that is not true. They have money. There is enough money to pay your workers. What is there is, what are your values? What do you intend to achieve? What is important to you? What is important to you? Is it saving money for the next election? Because most times, most of these funds that goes to the states are used for electoral purposes. So if you are saving the money for election, if you are saving the money, there's a particular state, when the governor when he was elected, the first speech, he hired another 10,000 essays. So who is going to pay for that? In other climes, you take a 3 years period and say, in this particular department, we are going to have a shortfall and we are going to employ people. So, but what you have in Nigeria is every day they are employing, every day you are having illegal recruitment. There are more political office holders than even the civil servants that we are talking about that we cannot pay 18,000 naira. And even the political office holders, how much are you paying them? How much are you paying them? The average salary for an essay is about 100 to 150,000. And then there you have a governor recruiting between 1,000 to 10,000. If they are going to stay for 8 years, you know they're going to have 10,000 workers. And once it's close to election year, and then you are going to have more recruitment coming in. So what you have is that there are so many wastages in the system. Katsina that is implementing is not a viable, if I'm going to use the word viable state in quote, it cannot be equated to be a viable state. Akwa Ibom is yet to implement. Akwa Ibom is wealthier than Katsina state. So what is there and what are your priorities? So the politicians or the political elite that we have are consumers. They don't think out of the box to find a solution to all of this. There is no state in Nigeria that cannot pay 30,000 minimum wage. It all depends upon where their priorities lies.
Now the question is, perhaps every governor must pay now, whether they like it or not, because it's a law and it's on item 34 of the exclusive legislative list, I think in the 3rd schedule of the Nigerian Constitution. So it's a law. So they can't run away from it, isn't it? But the thing is that perhaps they will come up with styles. Okay, fine, we approve, but we'll owe. Like a lot of states were even owing the 18,000 naira minimum wage, even up till now. Some also are saddled with, they've not even promoted. A level 9 officer has been a level 9 officer for 10 years. No promotion. So even if you pay the 30,000 naira minimum wage, for someone that should have been promoted some years ago, even currently, will still be earning that 30,000 naira, and he or she is not well off.
That is also where I call out my comrades in the states too. And labor unions are a pressure group. What I expect of my fellow comrades to do is get the budget. Civil servants in the state knows how funds are being spent, how the wastages in the system. Bring it out. Let everybody look at the data. Let everybody look at the statistics. Let everybody look at how funds are being wasted in the states. These are things that I expect my comrades in various states to come out. Let our discussion not only be emotional, let it be data-driven. I also want the state governors to come out and say, okay, fine, this is how much I'm spending for security votes. Let us go ahead and say, where is the security that you are providing? Where are you spending the money? On the average, each state, the minimum amount that you have each state government telling us that they spend on security votes is about 100 million every month. That is the lowest. I know of some states whose security votes are about 500 million naira every month. What are you spending that money for? And where is the security? So there are areas that I also that I always draw the attention of commerce to, that you also need to look at this, so that when you are talking, Nigerians don't look at you as if you are talking from emotions. I want this discussion to be based on data, so that let the governors also come out and tell us how many people have you recruited in the last 4 years? How much are you paying? How many essays have you recruited? When you came on board, what was your staff strength? And what are the staff strength now? The recruitment that you carried out, were they political recruitment or were they service driven? So these are things that we need to ask our governors. There are certain recruitment that is carried out that you will not do in your private company. I worked in the private sector. It's only when I became president of TUC that I know that people have no respect for agreements. We shouldn't even be having this conversation. In the first place, it's a law. You go ahead and you enforce the law. And this is where the labor court also come in, industrial labor court also come in. Because the federal and state government have gotten away with so much act. You can't come and say you are owing somebody's salary for 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, 1 year. The last time federal government, the Buhari administration came out with bailout funds. Now go and find out how much of this bailout fund that was meant to be used to pay workers' salary was actually used. Okay. What were they used for?
Okay, I'll come back to you in a bit. I just wanted to get your sentiments on a few issues. Just still hang on with me there. Let me come to Hassan Rabiu.
Yeah.
You've heard the former TUC president.
Yeah.
He's raised a lot of vital issues. Let's see if we'll even have time to take a look at some of them. But what do you have to say? Where are the sticky issues, really?
Yeah. I might have a slightly different point of view. Of course, coming from different background as a labor leader and somebody that is a student of economics, there is no state that is not viable in Nigeria. But from time to time, we have change of leadership, and then the failure of leadership cannot be used as a proxy to define viability or non-viability of a state. So every state in Nigeria is viable. It is where the leadership fails that you now begin to challenge as against the viability of the state. That's one. Secondly, now the issue of salary adjustments and the law, exclusively giving the federal government the power to determine all such things is a very fundamental issue. And I think in a growing economy like Nigeria, I think we need to probably begin to think of unbundling some of the exclusive provisions in the constitutions to give states the flexibility of actually adapting to their economic realities. It is not fair for this country at this time for one single exclusive legislation at the federal level to determine what minimum, even though the experience of other nations still remains, but you would see that certain peculiarities are still allowed within the law. My suggestion is that I think when we come up to discuss constitutional reforms, these are very, very fundamental issues that actually needs to be looked at, and along with so many others, so many other provisions that have been embedded in the exclusive legislative list that usually creates technical distortions within the economy and within the nation. That's one. Two, capacity to pay or otherwise, I think is not a function of the state. It's a function of leadership. It's failure of leadership. Now, what we have seen is that over the years,
but sorry to cut you short. Are we also being unfair to the state governors to say it's failure of leadership in the looking at the perspective of there's little they can also do in their states?
Yeah.
Because everybody resorts to the center.
Yeah.
The center is still holding states captive, so to speak, that you cannot control your resources, as it were.
Yeah.
So aren't we also being a bit unfair to the governors? Or are you saying that status quo right now is still a failure of leadership and they can still do more even with the status quo?
Yeah. So
I hope you understand.
I
my
quite
question.
understand.
Yeah.
I think why I actually consider the leadership as one fundamental factor is the fact that my anticipation is that my state governor should be enlightened enough, should be experienced enough to understand that if we have to get these things done well, we have to address the fundamental cracks. We have to address the fundamental issues. State governors have powers to actually make moves that will actually restructure the provisions of the Constitution and our laws to give them more leverage for them to be able to manage their economic affairs, especially that the Constitution equally clearly specifies that the state should be responsible for managing its financial resources.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let me come to Mr. Obinna. I see you were just scribbling, you were writing a lot of things down.
Yeah.
What's that, a thesis? Can I take a look?
Yeah, straight up. I usually will ask is it that the barber does not know how to cut hair, or the clipper is blunt?
Or the hair is too long.
Or the hair is too long or bushy. Hassan just solved it for me. Issue of leadership. I won't be in a hurry to hit out at whoever the authority figures, the positional leaders are at different levels to say that they are bad leaders. The long and short of it is that we need to look at the nature of our system and the type of governance we run. We run a very costly government where you ordinarily in UK and a few places, and permit me to use that example, even if you use our villages, our traditional rulers of old will tie their wrapper and wear their cap and take their bicycle and just make sure they solve problems in the community. But today you have four-wheel drives, you have all manner of things. They head to the airport all the time. One person has the convoy of 22, you know. And then I like the fact that my very good friend Peter Esele talked about process-driven government. I would always say that what never gets measured never gets done.
Managed, yeah.
So I would recommend to Labour that the emphasis Labour has placed on minimum wage has been my personal issue. We need to de-emphasize minimum wage. What was the value of what was the value of 30,000 in 1981? Probably less than $500. But today, emphasis was on minimum wage. Even if they were paid 60,000, what was the value of that? That's less than $200. So maybe the emphasis of Labour, the civil society organizations, the civil community-based organizations, the Nigerian Bar Association, the media, the fourth estate of the realm, and the rest of false public analysts and all of the people, maybe our focus should be on putting pressure on government to do what is right, put in place the right infrastructure. Will it be possible that a civil servant walks in under the NHIS, walks into a hospital and gets quality health care? As I speak to you today, you get to certain hospitals, you're not able to get the right Medicare because of what is called capitation. So some hospitals have removed certain drugs from the list of what you will get or you need to go and now buy from a pharmacy. And the cost of these drugs, which most times are not made here, is far above the affordability of a civil servant. Now you're dealing with issue of how we run government. This feeding bottle government we're running will not take us far. We are grown men, grown persons who contested elections, send their commissioners of finance to fly into Abuja every month with cap in hand to share so-called national cake, which I am wondering when it will finish. And we focus on a monocultural economy that is all.
It will finish soon if we're
now you have 704 local government areas, and as simple as this example I'll give you, Smedan has a document called OLOP, One Local Government, One Product, which will copy, Duke Adelaja copied extensively from Japan, where every prefecture produces at least one thing. I've had to engage the TUC. I've had to engage the NLC. I addressed the TUC, the Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, NEC, in 2014, and I told them that it was not going to work. Increase the salary under Jonathan wasn't going to work. I met Ayuba Waba in his very office, and I asked him a simple question, as simple as NOGE, National and Local Government Employees. The civil service rule says you can do farming. Have we tried to ask for the land that is there, which Japan hardly has, and all other countries struggle to have? We have all the resources. Can we focus on agriculture, which is a low-hanging fruit? The 220 billion MSME Development Fund, has anybody paid attention to it and then take their minds back to 200 billion agri loan from way back? What happened to all of that money? The anchor borrower scheme and all of that, which at least if you feed your people, if you can clothe your people, if you can give them shelter and they are able to pay school fees, then of course you begin to take your eyes off this salutary thing that we do every 5 years. And the Constitution is very clear that you should review salaries naturally every 5 years. The danger in all of what is going on, my father-in-law, Mr. Ralu, was the director of labor in the Federal Ministry of Labor. In fact, he conducted the election of Adams Oshomole. He told me that it's very, very unfortunate and tragic that you come on air and tell the market woman that salaries have been increased. The next thing is orange. The woman said, minimum wage has increased. Oranges go up, rice goes up, and all other things go up.
Even with this new Finance Act exempting,
look at the VAT, exempting those products. I can tell you for free that those are not, you have just about 28 items that you exempted, down to tampons and the rest of them, school fees and so on. But you know there are 1,001 things. Nancy, you have a market list. Check your market list and see 1,001 things that you know that are not, okay, what about medicine? Which pharmaceutical company produces the one that we use here?
But pharmaceutical materials, educational materials, as well as basic items are excluded for this 7.5 VAT.
5 VAT.
And also school fees, tuition fees, and all of that.
And all of that, but this is to what extent?
Okay.
To what extent?
Peter Esele, I'm coming back to you. Yes, what do you have to say about that? And perhaps, what is your recommendation now as you are out of at least the active labor life? What's your recommendation? Do you think that labor, when I mean labor, NLC, TUC, and all other labor unions, are they really actively engaging government in a constructive, intellectual way? And not, yes.
They are, but they can do better. Why I'm using the word that they are, but they can do better, is that they have all this data to use in making their case. But I think they are not doing enough with it. That's one. Secondly, I heard the Economist saying something about allowing states to set minimum wage. You see, most times is that we don't copy. We want to be like America, but we don't copy the good side. We want to take the bad side. The minimum wage is set by the U.S. Congress. The minimum wage is set by the U.S. Congress. And what minimum wage means is that this is the lowest you can pay anywhere. You can pay more. Minimum wage is higher in California, San Francisco, than in other states in America. So, but you cannot go below. That is what minimum wage is. So, saying that states should now be the one to set out what they can pay, no. Minimum wage is set up by the National Assembly, while other states can go ahead and pay higher. Now, you have 17 states that have agreed to pay, and you also have others that have not paid. They will also come up and they will pay. But what you must ask yourself is, why do we always have this circle? We have National Wages and Salaries Commission. We have the National Bureau of Statistics. We have PENCOM. So we have all of this data to tell us about living wage. And again, if you pay higher salaries, you collect higher taxes. In Norway, for example, in the Nordic countries, for example, workers pay as high as 40 to 50% of their salary as taxes. They get quality education.
But they get free education. In Finland, for example, free education to university level. Don't even come to me with the Nordic. The Nordic countries are just ahead of America in a lot of things. Norway, Finland, Denmark, and co.
Teachers and higher.
Yes.
What I'm telling you now is, if you pay me 30,000 naira, and you tell me you are taking 15,000 naira out of the 30,000 naira, and I will have quality health care, why will I not ask you to go with the half of the salary? Yeah, you can. Because one thing is that once you pay higher, you collect more taxes. Now, let me tell you, Nancy, what I've been going through just merely talking to you. Now, I've been switching between the Wi-Fi in my office and my Android phone.
Thank you.
That's what I've been going through here. And what is that? Bad infrastructure. So when my Android phone, the network goes off, the Wi-Fi comes on automatically. So now that is costing itself. Now, let me tell you what is likely going to play out this year. Now, you are not paying minimum wage, 7.5 VAT is loading, and then you have tariff, electricity tariff is loading, it's coming up in April.
Yes.
And I'm giving you a that
with a 7.5 on it, oh.
Just wait.
Yes.
Just wait. I'm going to give you the economic indices that is going to hit the workers this year. Now, you just have VAT that has loaded now. You have electricity tariff that is loading coming up in April. Another one that is loading is petroleum price. The drum is being beaten gradually. You just heard the minister saying that they are subsidizing with 97 naira more. Yeah. So that too is going to come up before the end of the year. And there's also likely going to be a devaluation of the naira at the end of the year. Now, you elect people to find solutions to problems. That is why people are elected. Whether it is APC, whether it's PDP, this platform are responsible to think through all the challenges facing the country. It's not the responsibility of the labor leader. The labor leader is first and foremost responsible to its members. So we shouldn't make that, we should be able to clarify that. It's responsible to its members. Its members pay dues every month.
Okay.
So the challenge facing the country are for political leaders to deal with, while labor come up with their own pressure points.
Comrade, my guests are disagreeing with you, and we just have a few more minutes, less than 5 minutes to finish this program. And I'm being pushed to say we will continue again because we've not looked at the whole dimension of this minimum wage. Living wage is on one part. The consequential adjustment is another end. But let me just quickly give the next few minutes for our guests here to wrap up their thoughts. Yes, you are disagreeing.
Okay, I disagree, Peter. I will disagree with you. We've had this discussion severally, you and I. Quickly, I will tell you quietly, Hassan said that every state is viable. Hassan, again, I disagree. Every state is potentially viable. States should look at IGR, internally generated revenue, and stop this pilgrimage from their states to Abuja. It has to stop. We need to look at the local government autonomy, Hopefully that will help us to now grow the local governments now that we've separated from the age of joint accounts where governors did whatever they liked with the money of the local government. We're also hoping that NFIU would focus on the local governments, make sure they do what they need to do to ensure that we grow the local government areas. Now, we need to deal with the issues of ghost workers. Now, security, farmers not being able to get into the farms, and then even the civil servants who are allowed to do farming by virtue of the civil service rules, able to also farm and augment their income. Peter, I agree with you only on this point. The fact that if we build the right infrastructure, then we are able to now de-emphasize focus on paper wealth and focus on the dividends that we can drive from being a part of this environment. Where I disagree with you, Peter, and you know I would disagree with you, is that unusual situations demand unusual solutions. You probably were a student union leader. I was one. And you know quite well that whenever the VC begins to go outside the terms of what set him up, we had no option than to engage him on Jojo. And when that did not work, I'm sorry, Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment is very clear.
Okay.
Existentialism.
Okay.
Whatever that means.
Mr. Rabiu,
Yeah,
very
I
quickly.
think by and large, the sufficient analysis done by the Labour leader and my colleague here have actually said everything. Now, the concluding part is that in the final analysis, how do we locate value in the entire exercise? There is none, because increasing minimum wage amidst all these fiscal reforms does actually create a very nil result in the entire exercise. And therefore, the suggestion made by my colleague regarding Labour putting its energy in more fundamental things is very important, as against the monetary increments that often get nailed out within the next 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 quarter maximum. So I suggest that productivity-linked, I mean, going forward, productivity-linked wages are supposed to be more important than ordinary minimum wages.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's just take a few comments before we go. Hilary Ndibele says unbearable, that's on Twitter, says unbearable unemployment levels and epileptic power supply are most worrisome to the average Nigerian. Omogbana Hobabs on Twitter says there's the largest cost security vote that the state governor collects every month. Some collect as ridiculously high as 500 million naira, yet the states are still faced with insecurity. 100 million naira security can go a long way, while the balance of 400 million is huge in salary payment. Sarame says, of what use is minimum wage when the so-called increase in minimum wage has been taken by 7.5 VAT increase in electricity bill. My bill was 7,000 naira in November 2019, and in December it jumped to 12,000 naira. Comrade, just in 30 seconds, your closing remarks, very quickly. 30 seconds, less than that if possible.
A system-driven government will make life easy for everybody, not hard work.
Okay. You know, I'm being pushed to say we'll continue this conversation on another day. We'll talk about